First Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And very good evening to you and welcome to Newsline Live, and we're broadcasting as we almost always do from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. Now this evening I thought I'd start the program off by reading something that was written on and published on the 8th of November 2014, and it says this here: the authorities do not seem to be exercising prudence when funds are disbursed. The government revenues eaten up for unholy purposes by the politicians. Billions of rupees have been wasted to build up a massive complex during the former president's tenure, which was abandoned due to public pressure. Remember, we're talking 2014. The notorious VAT scam is a case where public officers have defrauded billions. Privatizations such as Sri Lanka Insurance and Air Lanka were a few where millions were lost for the country. Now this was written in 2014. It looks like 8 years later we're still stuck with the same things. Okay, the VAT scam was replaced by the bond scam, and then came along the sugar scam, or whatever, we all know about the sugar thing. And then there was there is now something called the oil business. So it looks like the scams are going on and on and on, and the governance issues are going downwards. They're going the other way. To discuss that, who better than Mr. Lacille de Silva, with a wealth of experience from Sri Lanka's parliament. Very good evening to you, Lacille.
Good evening to you, Faraz. It's happy to be with you again.
Thank you. But are you unhappy as a person who spent, about 30 years in parliament, in the administration side of it? Are you unhappy, or are you pleased with the way the parliament is now going on?
Actually, I'm very, very unhappy. I'm very unhappy because things are not really happening there in parliament at the moment, and that is basically, there are several reasons. I would say the parliament proper, the way the public eventually has taken such a lot of pains, to maintain all these institutions. We'll say all democratic political institutions, parliament, the provincial councils and all that. Above all, the parliament, I'm very unhappy about the situation at the moment.
It says here in this article, again, November the 8th, 2014, however, fighting corruption, eradicating inefficiency, waste, etc. in the public sector, establishing good governance and the rule of law seem to be difficult tasks for the government. Really? Is that what they ought to be doing?
Yeah. Now, in 2015, we are fully well aware the government that was elected in 2015 was mandated to establish good governance and end corruption. Now, 5 years later, we have to very unfortunately talk about the same thing in the same way. I think the corruption in this country has gone on endlessly, and it has become a cancer. Nobody bothers to stop it. At least, to try and find out how to stop corruption, because unless you stop corruption in this country, there's no future at all.
When I did a program with my late colleague and my dear friend Banalujaya Sekra, the last program I did with him, he said, talking about cancer, and this is why I'm saying it, he said about cancer, he said, you've got to learn to let go. Well, in terms of corruption, we need to learn to let go of corruption.
Let me say it this way. We have suffered. Now, look at countries like Singapore, or even China, Malaysia, all that, right? Now, in our case, we had to face, deadly war for 30 years. Then look at countries like Japan, Germany, and even Korea, right? Who had been doing not so very well like ours at that time, right? Now, why did we eventually go down when we were in 1940s, 48, right? Japan was 90 per capita income, and ours was 89. We had the best of infrastructure at the time, and it is on record. We have a country where we could have easily taken up
Yes, but
and
Lacille, forgive me for saying this, but from where I stand, you know, it looks like Sri Lanka is forever and a day living in this reflected glory. We talk about our proud history of over 2,500 years, and we talk about how Lee Kuan Yew wanted to use Sri Lanka as the yardstick. This is all, I'm sorry, but this is all sort of reflected stuff. Why not us do the real thing?
I just wanted to give it a start that way, basically.
Yeah.
Right? My intention now, we have elected people. Now, Aristotle had said long years ago, right? You have to send good men to rule a country. And did we send the wrong type of people to run this country? It had been proved after 77. Actually, we have sent the wrong people, because in 1977, let me say it this way, China started the same program, right? Deng Xiaoping opening up the economy and to become the, you know, the industry for, actually to become the factory for the whole world, right?
Yeah.
And even Georgia started the same thing in 1977, and he also established what is this export-oriented, you know, these commissions, right? Board of Investments Act number 4, if I remember right, in 1978, right? So having started all that, look at China, how they had been able to develop, and we were not able to develop because we have elected the wrong type of people, and they have completely destroyed this country since 1977. Now, after having ended the war, we still did the same mistake, right? We have to open up our eyes and ensure that we somehow think in terms of establishing a good government with good people. But I think that's the only way. We have to change the whole system, you know.
But we need also, unfortunately, you know, just believing in this whole democracy business is almost a lark in Sri Lanka. I say this because time and time again, people who are elected in our country let the blessed side down. The moment they get their Chandekole, they are not to be seen in the villages, and I have heard this story myself just outside Colombo. And there was an old lady some years ago, she said, if I see this politician coming and if the road isn't fixed, I know what I would do, and she pointed out the broomstick. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, whether we like it or not, it looks like Sri Lanka needs minimum standards to have for people to enter parliament, because these people by and large are a bunch of jokers.
Definitely,
that's all they are.
Definitely. What is basically important, you know, now see, let me say it this way, right? We had very good institutions. Unfortunately, all those institutions have been broken down, and they have weakened. A weak parliament, a weak public sector, a weak judiciary, all that. So why did they do all that? Because then only they will be able to achieve their goals. Now, let me again, I had to go back, right? Now, 1931 to 47 period, people like, you know, like C.W.W. Kanangara, he said, having got the franchise elections, right? I mean, voting rights, he said, if you really want to make people appreciate the value of democracy, you have to give education, right? Now, having started all that, by the 1960s, we had achieved all that, and all the statistics were comparable even with developed countries, like whatever, right? Now, let me say it this way. Now, then there came another group of people after 77. They have even closed down the number of schools that they had originally established. After 77, we have closed down 1,500 schools.
Is that consolidated or just closed?
Just closed and given over to various other purposes, and the literacy rate that was so high, there is a tendency that it is going down slowly. Actually, all that was pre-planned, because then only what happens, I mean, what you said, people don't know what democracy is. People don't know the value of sending good people to parliament.
But that's because, you know, the parties, the people can only choose for what is on the plate, and that plate is is a smelly, corrupt, dodgy
Yeah.
plate.
You know,
and half these jokers,
Yeah.
they come there and they think, oh, you know, this is a business for them.
Actually-
the minute they get elected, they think they can do what they like.
basically that is what they are doing, you know, because it is the fault of the leadership, party leaders there. They have remained, now see,
Which is why I say to you, would you promote the cause of chucking away the democracy book and installing minimum standards for parliament, at least for that?
you know, in the first place, we have to ensure that these people are defeated, because unfortunate situation, if they are not defeated, they will never change all that. Now look at political parties, right?
But the parliamentarians didn't do jack about that either.
Yeah, political parties are led by a gang, I would say.
A gang of one.
Without any hesitation, can I say a gang of rogues? Let me say it that way.
Gang of rogues.
Rogues, right? Because from top to the bottom, right, all have robbed this country, whatever the party they belong to, right? So naturally, what is basically important is the political parties must understand what they are doing in other countries. Actually, in this country only you find political parties limited to a set of people who really want to run, not a democratic set of, not based on democratic whatever principles, running democratic parties, right? Parties are held, or at least parties are for them owned by a gang of people who do not respect the values of running democratic governance.
Politicians and nappies must be changed often. Thank you for that comment from the member of the public there. Agreed?
I really agree.
Yes, but how can we do that? We had one person who was in there for 40 years.
Yeah, watching
Netflix.
I forget the name. One of the political scientists in America had said, if you allow the same group of politicians to remain in politics, naturally they become corrupt. That is what basically what has happened here in Sri Lanka too.
So then and apart from minimum standards, we also need minimum term limits.
Term limits. Yeah.
But they did away with that for the president. They introduced the 20th Amendment.
Yeah, because you know
that.
Now see, we had the 17th Amendment, which was more democratic, right? Then the 18th Amendment brought in, that was totally undemocratic, right? And then again, 19th was abolished, right? Then now 20th Amendment. What I personally think is 20th Amendment is a type of, not for a democratic type of government. It's an autocratic type of rule.
But they say they want that for strong government. But
no, why do you need a strong government? You need a strong, you need strong institutions, like you need strong parliament.
But the institutions are all dismantled.
Yeah.
Now here we go. Look, last Sunday's newspaper headline: the president is going to take to task those officials who've not followed his instructions to do with ICT and so on. Right. Now that's that. I do wish that the president will also look at why and take to task these public institutions who are not doing their job, like the Sri Lanka Standards Institute.
You know, in the first place, president must take to task his own cabinet ministers, because they run those ministries. If the ministries are not functioning properly, or if the the departments or the corporations or other institutions coming under the purview of those relevant minister is responsible. That is accountability, right? If there is no accountability and they have lost respect for whatever political appointments or whatever, right? So they have to win the confidence of the people. You can't punish the officials with having ignored your minister, because minister is responsible, and ultimately the president himself should take the responsibility for all what is happening in the country.
But the ministry secretary is the chief accounting officer.
Yeah, the chief accounting officer for purposes of books. Let me also say it this way. Now
let's come back, shall we, Lacille, because right now we've got this tiny little thing to do, which is called looking at a little peek at the headlines for the primetime news this evening. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Right.
Shauketaly.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Lacille de Silva, who's of course got 30 plus years of experience in the administration of Sri Lanka's parliament. Now then, we just thought we'll clarify the figure about the closure of schools starting in 1977 and coming down
to now.
Towards 2021. Over 1,000,
nearly 1,500 schools.
just about nearly 1,500 schools were closed down. And the highest number in any one year,
Was in 2009, 103 schools.
2009, the year we won the war,
103 schools.
103 schools. So we were in such a jubilant mood that we closed down schools. Charming.
You're right.
Charming. Wonderful. Right. Now then, how do we change the trajectory? How do we change the system?
You know, the biggest problem when I look at this whole thing is, you know, when you entrust power to dishonest, unethical, immoral people, right, they do that. So how do we find better people? Basically, that is the crux of the issue. And if you have a good leader, right, always he will be able to, you know, make his junior subordinates a lot better. Now, in according to the teachings of the Buddha,
Yeah.
it says the king, if the king is righteous, then down the line everybody becomes
So, Lacille, I want to ask you this. Back in 2015, we had what we thought was a game changer president. Okay? Game changer president. They had Presifac, the Presidential Commission on Corruption and so on. You were the Secretary General of that. Wasn't that a complete and utter waste of money,
you know,
time?
actually
and
a lot of money were wasted, but during our term we never wanted to waste money. We were on a
Yes, I
very
know,
strict
but
budget.
what I'm saying
No.
is, what's the point? They did all that,
Yeah.
and apart from a big report about that big,
Yeah,
okay, that big then,
And-
whatever, nothing's come out of it.
definitely. I think that was basically because, you know, let me now tell the country what happened, right?
Please do. There's the camera.
Right now, in 2015, when the commission was appointed, we had a number of very good judges, including people, you know, I don't want to name all of them because that may not be the right
Okay,
thing
so
to
we
do.
had good judges. Go
Yeah,
on,
they
go
were
on.
very good judges, right? Now, all of us were doing our job with sincerity, with a commitment. The message was sent to the people, to the country, that they should, you know, that was by the end of 2015 December, right? There was a message sent to the country that everybody must now correct themselves and come to the correct track, keep away, not engage in corruption. That was the message. But unfortunately, in 2016, early part of the year, I remember Ranil Wickremesinghe, former Prime Minister, said on TV that public officials are being harassed, inconvenienced, and the public sector is crumpling down. Now, having said that, he said, I will take this matter up with the president and I will take a decision, right? And after 1 week, I was sent home. From that day onwards, back again, back same old story. So the corruption continues up to now, and
So basically it was a political gimmick.
it was a political gimmick, but I don't blame Maithripala Sirisena for that, because he gave us all the support that was needed always, you know.
So who do you blame?
I blame Ranil Wickremesinghe. Ranil Wickremesinghe was the culprit, and I know that, right? Basic problem, because I don't want to, I'm not scared of telling the truth.
Yeah.
And this is nothing but the truth. This is the truth.
So
right?
you hold him responsible for that?
I hold him responsible, because by that time, even Vajra Abeyodhana had been pestering me, calling me, and I said I blocked him. And that's in the public whatever
in the
domain.
public domain.
Yeah, right? So all that could be even checked. I mean, whether I'm telling the truth, it's there in the.
Yeah.
So naturally,
It stands up to verification.
yeah, right? All that was done with a view to change the system,
Yeah.
and wanted us to change all that, right? But we never wanted to change. Now I know, I mean, I was prepared to go home if we were not allowed to do that. So naturally, that's what happened, and I'm happy about it, but I'm really sad about the country.
You're sad about the country. I'm terribly sad about all the money and the time and the energy that was put
No, but
into
I think,
all that
according to what I
business.
personally think, all the guys who rob this money, they are not happy internally. They will pay for all that. Karma will take it over.
Yes, but
Yeah, but
that takes a while. Though.
I know it takes a long time. And this evening we had another press briefing. I said,
Yeah.
having failed to punish the culprits, the perpetrators of all those crimes, eventually that has punished the entire country.
But it's a little bit unfair because the actions of a few are affecting the many.
Yeah, that is the fault of the rulers, because the rulers have been elected to do that. Unfortunately, even this present government was elected with a thumping majority to establish all that. I mean, let me say, ask the people, are you getting what you wanted?
Are you getting what you wanted? Are you getting what you voted for?
Yeah.
Are you likely to have provincial elections soon? What do you think?
Provincial elections, actually I don't look at the way that the others are looking at. Devolution of power is a must.
Yeah.
In my way, if devolution of power, even if you scrap provincial councils, you should go to the deepest end.
Yes, but
furthest end.
in the current situation, do you think that
They will
any
hold
government
elections?
will hold elections?
With the kind of experience I have in Parliament, right?
Yeah.
The present government is reluctant to test their whatever popularity at this moment.
Well, the last government had
Same fear.
chap called Faraz Mustafa,
Yeah.
who was the minister in charge of all that.
Yeah.
And he did a pretty good job at not having elections
Right.
and styling it out.
Yeah.
And famously said in my studio on this program, and he said, there were so many spelling mistakes.
Even that is a punishable offense, because in 1977, after JR came back to power, Mrs. Bandaranaike's civic rights were removed. So on the same basis, I personally feel you have to remove, if there's a ethical type of a system, you have to even deal with Faisal Mustafa, or even the President Maithripala Sirisena, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, all of it. Because democracy, I mean, in a democratic country, you have to periodically hold elections, and the Constitution stipulates that. So they have violated the Constitution for no reason or the other.
Goodness me, it's very powerful all of a sudden. And you think that we can achieve that? Is there the political will to go down that route?
The political will, if you had the political will, we could have eradicated corruption in this country, like the same way they eradicated the war, right?
Yeah.
Now, they had the political will. Unfortunately, having ended the war, what have they ultimately created? I would have preferred, all that, like Wonder of Asia, all that, right? But nothing of that has been sort of, delivered in a sense,
So after the war, it's been a big letdown.
It's a very sad letdown, I would say that way. Without,
We had two types of government.
yeah, both governments are responsible, because now the previous government was elected.
In your view, how's this government doing? This is the third one after the war.
This is about,
Yeah, the third. Mind the won the war,
Yeah.
and then he had the elections.
Yeah.
And then came the Apalanistas.
Right.
And now comes Mr. Gotabaya.
yeah. This is about the third government. Yes.
This is the third government since then.
Yes.
Isn't it all a waste of time? Us doing this program, us on the news, and bringing this information to the public, because nothing seems to change.
My hat's off to Sirasa. You also have to play very safe, but I don't think anybody will dare anything like that, because now see, even in Myanmar, right? This is democracy. We should be able to speak up. Still, with regard to the 20th Amendment, they have not amended our right to speak, freedom of speech. Right? We should be able to speak, and we should be able to come out and tell the truth. There's no two words about it.
When you talk openly, as you do you have a fear that you may be locked up?
Doesn't matter, because if I have to die, someday I have to die, right? If I have to be locked up, doesn't matter.
It's just the difference is being done.
I know I'm not a sinner, right? I'm not a sinner. I will never go even according to the teachings of Buddha to hell, right? And those who do all that will definitely end up in hell, right? So I have no fear. Out of the love, respect, all that I have. You know, I'm a guy having got free education, right? I got the best of all the comforts in the public sector, enjoyed all that, and I'm a pensioner. So I have a debt to pay for this country, right? And therefore, it doesn't bother me. I have to speak the truth.
All in the public interest. Lacille de Silva, thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the primetime news from News First. And after the primetime news at 9:35, you will be able to watch Face the Nation, live from our studios in Ratnalana, Stein Studios. So there you go. Have a great evening ahead of you. Take care and God bless you.